Good afternoon, Paul. I hope you can hear me this time.
How you doing? I can hear you. I should
All right, good. Thank you. You couldn't hear me last time.
Oh, could we not? Okay.
Yeah, there was an issue with my mic, I think. Yeah.
Or maybe we're just doing that classic.
You know me too well.
That's it. We're doing the helicopter. You haven't done that to plunge yet. You put your headset on, man. We put our heads on, we go. You're like, then you sort of whisper, go, I can't hear you either. I can't hear you. Oh, it's it's a rubbish trick. How is everybody, right?
All right, thanks. Bit wet today.
Bruce is doing it. He's yeah, everybody's on
There
mute.
you go. That's better.
Hey, there we are. I thought you were just trying to help me there, Bruce, honestly.
Yeah.
Could see the little mute symbol. Yeah. Yeah, see you later. See you in the morning. Yeah, there are other people here as usual. We've got a few here at the moment. And not a lot of pizza left, I'll be honest. Right. I might as well kind of get cracking then. So it's flight performance and planning. But we wanted to really focus quite heavily tonight on SkyDemon. So what is SkyDemon? Oh, sorry, I should have thrown as in I'm asking everybody. Tony's sitting opposite me looking sort of quite smug. I know what it is. Sorry. Yeah, what is SkyDemon?
My instructor uses.
Dropped him straight in it. Yeah, it's something we do use. So who, hands up, who doesn't actually know what SkyDemon is? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good. Okay,
so
it's
navigation for when you planning for travel to somewhere.
Sorry, I need like a revolving camera, don't I? There's Blund.
Right.
Is that it? Tony's hiding around there somewhere. One of these days, I'm going to sit up at the counter so the camera faces this way so you can see everybody.
Planning to fly to somewhere.
Yes, it's everything you've just said there. Yeah.
The helping you to not go into another place or
maybe. Yeah, good. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear what he's saying.
Helps you to easily go.
So it's something we can use for the purpose of planning, but maybe also when we're airborne flying. I think you're trying to say about making sure we don't go into maybe areas like controlled airspace. Yeah, good. Yeah.
I've found it as well. It's also very useful for if we don't see any aircraft, it can sometimes give you a warning that there's other traffic.
Yeah, now is that
it sort of says traffic 12 o'clock, you know.
We'll come back to that because is that SkyDemon or is that something else?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. That's what tonight's all about, isn't it?
My ignorance, apologies.
Remember, it's really important that as your instructor or whoever your instructors are, but your instructor knows what you don't know. We all know what you do know, but we need to know what you don't know because that's the gaps we've got to fill, isn't it? So we always say the only daft question is the one you don't ask. So it's really true. If you know, don't sit quietly. If you don't know something, you need to say so. That way we can sort it out. So we'll come back to that. But we always like to probe somebody's knowledge rather than instantly just tell you the answer. We do that classic of, well, what do you think it is? You know, just to see kind of if there's anything in there. Because you might say, oh, well, it could be this. Now we're onto something. So, sorry. Anyway, so we'll come. Alex, do ask me that again a little bit later in case I don't mention it about the being able to see other traffic on the screen when we're using SkyDemon. But no, keep firing those questions. So hopefully, I mean, the first thing is it's really just it's a program, isn't it? It's not a I can't see it down it. It's not a paper chart or anything. It's a program, whether it be an app on your phone or on the PC or on the iPad in the helicopter, which we tend to use quite a lot. Those sorts of things. That's what it is, isn't it? And it can do all sorts of things. So it's sometimes known as a bit like an electronic flight bag because it's kind of if we had a bag, it'd be full up with books because that's how much information is contained within this program. Maps and charts and AIPs and all sorts of things. So it's all bundled into one. So we can call it a bit of an electronic flight bag if we want to. Either way round, yeah, we tend to run it PC in the office because we don't have Macs in the office, and iOS in the helicopter, i.e. via iPad. So who's had a play with SkyDemon so far? Obviously, Tony's sitting next to me. Alec, you have obviously in the past. Blund, you kind of just about turned it on or off today, sort of thing, haven't you? Just in a very simple format. I've had a little bit of a go of it. Alec,
On off.
yeah, see it on off, yeah. Now, one of
Somewhere.
the good things about the team at SkyDemon is they're very good at listening to what we say. So if we find something not right or something could be changed, could we add, they're very good with that. You just sort of email them and they'll contact you. We can even call them, and they're very good. So the other things they do is they let you have a bit of a free trial of it. So there's a free version for the purpose of doing some of the planning. I think it'll let you simulate if you're flying, and you can use it for about 10 minutes in the air just to trial it out. Otherwise, you've got to pay for a subscription. But in the grand scheme of flying, it really isn't expensive. It's dirt cheap in the grand scheme of everything else, especially helicopters. And with this annual subscription, it means you get potentially all the when we look at the charts on it, all the chart updates, everything else, it's just instantly updated for you. So it's really good in that respect. So we'll look at it in a second for those that haven't seen it before. Now, there are other potential, these sorts of software packages available. There used to be quite a common one that people use called Runway HD, but I think that's now discontinued. Have you seen? You've not seen? No, I seem to remember. I sort of looked at them in the early days, and I favoured SkyDemon because it seemed to everything I wanted it to do without being too complicated and without being too expensive. Some of the others you have to pay for individual maps, and it gets real pricey. If you pay for individual maps per year, oh yeah, I think I racked it. I worked out once. One of the other packages would have been easily about £1,000 a year for what I do with it. Whereas SkyDemon's, I think, is about probably you guys would pay about £200 a year. So it's a snippet in comparison. Anyway, so that's why I chose SkyDemon. It seems to be ever so popular amongst GA, general aviation flying, but also even commercial pilots use it a lot. We quite often see, a big fancy helicopter rocks up here on the helipad. You have a good look inside, and it's just wall-to-wall screens, and then down the far ends an iPad, probably running SkyDemon on it. Anyway,
Even Chinese cars.
yeah, it's it.
Oh.
Okay, so before we actually look at it, so we've got an idea it could have things like maps and in amongst all this, it's probably good for planning. It could be, Blund said about when we're actually flying, about making sure we don't fly places we shouldn't be flying, or actually help us get flying in the right direction. Could be any of that. It even has weight and balance, it has weather, it has NOTAMs. It has Tony said it's got these things called plates, we call them. So the aerodrome chart, we call it a plate. So it's got all those latest ones on there as well if they update, but you do have to pay extra. Well, SkyDemon actually produce their own ones free of charge.
Year, isn't it?
Yeah. So SkyDemon do their own airfield plates, and they're absolutely fine. They're perfectly adequate. They also give you direct access through into the AIP. So there's one to write down, everybody. AIP, Aeronautical Information Publication, because that's kind of where all this info comes from via NATS, etc. But it gives you a link to go straight into it. But also we tend to use the Poolies plates a lot. There was one on the desk, wasn't there? Oh, thanks, Tony. And they tend to, Poolies really good. They're based here on the aerodrome, and we know them really well. So those that haven't seen it, and again, there are actually other people that produce these sorts of things, but this is our preferred one, Poolies Flight Guide. And for considering what it is, it's really not very expensive. And so Tony just said, I think it's £30 to get the electronic version that also integrates into SkyDemon. So if you pay for that within the SkyDemon software, you have instant access to the latest versions of this stuff. If you do get the paper one, it's fine. There's a little fill in the subscription at the front, and they send you in the post any of the updates, and you just have to insert them in as necessary. But having electronics dead handy, without a doubt, and you can just print them out as well, the ones you want. So you've always therefore got the latest info, which is really important when we start using some of these electronic software packages, etc. Is, are we using the latest software with the latest charts, with the latest plates, all those sorts of things? That's very important to make sure. Okay, so there's kind of like singing all the praises, all the amazing things about it. What might not be such a good thing, or the slight downsides of things like electronic software, mapping devices, blah blah blah.
Might lose the power.
Yeah, absolutely. So straight away, if you run out of power, the thing doesn't work, does it?
I found that when my previous life, when I was in the army, and we were teaching people how to navigate on land, and they got used to GPS, they forgot the basic skills of how to use a map and a
Yes,
compass, and
absolutely.
they got too focused on the device.
Yeah. So it's a bit like when sat navs in cars become very commonplace, people just stopped just driving where they know. And I got to admit, I do it. You know, I still have the route from here to work if I'm driving and back again. I know the route, but it bugs me because I can't stand being stuck in the traffic, especially flying helicopters. It's horrendous. Being stuck on the ground's awful. Anyway, but I find myself, you know, not so much if I just go 2 miles down the road, but I just almost find myself, right, I need to turn the sat. No, I don't. I know where I'm going. God, I'm going down the road. So, and we lose that basic skill, don't we? If we're not careful. So from your instructor side of things, we need to be very careful that we don't say that this is the be all and end all. It's an amazing bit of kit and software, but what if the battery fails? There's nothing to do with SkyDemon. That's not its fault. It's just the thing you're running it on. What if somehow the GPS isn't working properly and you're up in the air? It isn't going to work properly then, is it, for instance? So whilst we start teaching from quite early stages, the iPad, turning it on, because some people never even used an iPad before. So they need to be familiar with the iPad itself and the limitations of it, what it's like in bright light and heat, and the screen goes dark and all these sorts of things. And if it's not on charge, funny enough, it goes flat in flight. So I tend to teach that from a very early start. So they get very familiar with that bit of kit as much as the radio, the transponder, the instruments. It's just another bit of kit in the aircraft. We need to know how to turn it on. We need to know how the thing works and what its limitations are. But without doubt, when we talk navigation, it's map, stopwatch, and compass. Without a shadow of a doubt, so we mustn't lose those sort of primary skills. So therefore, we ought to say, in most respects, something like this electronic program screen device is going to be sort of secondary rather than primary, and that's how it really ought to be treated for the most part. Okay, so what other kind of limitations or downsides can you think? So battery going flat, losing that basic skill of how to actually navigate with a map, stopwatch, and compass.
Magnetic compass.
Volunteer?
And then we see a magnetic compass and the compass
Yeah, that's if you're talking about the directional indicator in the aircraft, that's something separate.
Yeah.
But the when we look at excuse me, when we look at SkyDemon, there's this thing at the bottom that can be dragged out. Not many people know about that. And it looks a bit like a compass, but it's not really working off of magnetic fields. It's just working off of GPS and the direction of travel. But we'll come to that. Alex said it.
Sorry, Paul, is there a risk that if we're too focused on it, we're not looking out?
Absolutely, yeah.
If we just worry about following a line on a computer screen.
Yeah, you get this magenta line syndrome. You know, you program it to go from A to B and literally head in, follow the line, and you actually forget to look outside if you're not careful. You get so absorbed in the screen that you forget to actually look through the windscreen at where you're going, because it could be things like clouds and birds and airspace and you know, other aircraft, obviously. So we've got to be real careful we don't get absorbed into it. So when we're teaching with a chart, we tend to teach, you know, look at your chart and then put the thing down, look through the windscreen and fly for a bit, for however long you think you can do that for, and then look at the chart again and so forth. And we ought to do that similar with the screen in the cockpit. You know, we ought to have a glance at it and then think, oh, I'm going the right way. In that case, I'll keep flying that way then. And for looks like a good another 5 minutes on my screen, right? Another 5 minutes. Happy days. I fly along. I enjoy the view. I look out for other aircraft. Whoop, mind the birds. All these sorts of things. And so that's how it ought to be. Anything else you can think of? Just briefly. Battery, not being too reliant upon it for things like you said, not looking out the windscreen. What about in the... Go on, Alec.
I was going to say software errors.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I mean, these sorts of things, and I say the SkyDemon team are really good at making sure it doesn't have errors. It's very rare for it to have a problem. But yes, of course, as much as we're subject to making an error when we're doing our calculations for planning, so's that bit of software. If it's got a slight glitch, a bug, programming, whatever, yeah, it's gonna throw up something that's not right. And if you're not used to knowing what the answer ought to be, you wouldn't necessarily spot the error. So I've got to be very careful of that too, being far too reliant upon it. And about the only other one I'd say is carrying on from what I just said there, is being heavily reliant upon it for everything. What if in the classroom the internet dies and it isn't going to work anymore because it's relying on the internet. So suddenly you're kind of a little bit lost of what to do. So yeah, we mustn't be too reliant on it. Like I say, when we look at it, it can be virtually everything apart from actually fly the aircraft. And even that you can couple them with certain autopilots in the aircraft now, and it will fly the route you program. So that's how much it can do, as it were. Okay.
A couple of things. You just mentioned about internet. You're not going to get internet in the air, are you?
No, you're not. That's right. So what we'll discover in a minute is that there's a definite kind of in the classroom, on the ground planning phase or use of it. And then there's the actual running of it in the air. Now, once you're up in the air, for the most part, it runs on what you've pre-programmed, etc., and its database and GPS. However, if you've got SIM card, so if you've got data connection in the device, then it can also update, and that's what we do. So all of our iPads, they're all got SIM cards in them with data on them, and so when we have data connection, it'll update things. And we'll see what are the sort of things it can update when we're airborne at the time. But for the most part, you don't necessarily need that. It's more about making sure on the ground it's got its internet connection, so it can show you all the latest information of everything you need, whether it be the weather, NOTAMs, whatever. You take all that info, get yourself completely prepared. Right, off we go. So we're not going to necessarily try and suddenly look at, everything in whilst we're flying along, because that's very difficult. So we need to be very prepared before we go, to the point where if it didn't have the data connection, or even if it packed up, we've got, other means of doing this. Okay.
You've also mentioned, you also mentioned iPads and iOS. Does it work on Android and tabs?
Yes, it does. Yes, yeah, it does indeed. It's just our preferred is iOS devices. So I can't speak of how well it works on Android. Dylan, I think, has it on his phone, and his phone's Android, isn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, he obviously gets on fine with it, but he also has an iPad when he's in the helicopter. Yeah, there you go.
Having backups and backups.
Yeah, that's it. So we normally do, I tend to use the Apple products, certainly the iPads, because I've found them to be the most reliable, believe it or not, especially with coping with temperatures and those sorts of things in the air. It's just what you're used to, what you prefer, isn't it? But yes, it will run on Android as well.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions with that for the minute? Otherwise, right, I will attempt to share my screen. Hopefully it'll work. With a bit of luck, you can see a map on the screen. Oh, somebody say yes. Ah, there we are. You should be able to see it now. Hey, thank you.
I can see that now.
Okay, now I haven't just shown you the very beginning where I click on the icon and it opens up, and of course there's a disclaimer first of all that you have to agree to. Do not click on the change language unless you're very good at other languages. Somebody did it in one of the helicopters once. It's like, oh my, I don't know what they put it on. It might have been, I needed Alec. I think they put it on Mandarin. Is it Mandarin you've been looking at? Who's been learning Mandarin?
Oh, Darren.
That was it. I don't know what it was, but I was like, oh no! I just had to kind of roughly do what I needed to do to change the language, and I managed it, thank goodness. Anyway, so just be careful which tab you press on the opening screen, please. And the disclaimer is going to tell you about, you know, about over reliance upon it, those sorts of things. So you have to agree to it, and ta-da, when it's on the. I can show you. I'll show you what it would look like. If you can see my screen on here, can you see me as a little? Actually, I'll come back to that because I realise you can't see me very well. Right. So he's kind of like. I'll just have to move you guys around a minute. Sorry. So whether you probably realise that this is a map of the UK. If I zoom out, there we are. You can see the UK. If I just keep zooming out, it'll get bigger and bigger scale. It won't let me go much. It won't let me go any further than that right now. But to be honest, we're in the UK. But you can see that from here, I've actually got these maps enabled. So one of the things we can do at the top is go into charts first of all, and just make sure we've got the chart that you want enabled. And it's just simply, yeah, literally tick them. As you can see, I've got Belgium, Netherlands, France, Ireland, and the United Kingdom for the moment. And it will download that map for you, etc., etc. So that's nice and easy. You can change them as at your heart's content. Down here, you can also change the style of chart. Now, I've gone for the UK CAA VFR charts because that's what we also use, the actual paper charts we use. So therefore, they look the same. If I change it to something else, it might well, it won't look the same as what you're normally used to with your paper chart. Okay. What it'll also do when I click on charts and just put continue, can you see down here that this United Kingdom is installed and it's valid from the 20th of March 2025. If there was an update one, it would look a bit different, but by just purely clicking continue, it would now automatically update that base chart. If I left it like this for long enough, it would then pop up on the screen. There's a chart update. Do you want to apply it? And we must click yes. We shouldn't go flying with an out-of-date chart. Happy with that? Easy enough, isn't it, so far? All right. Let's go away. That's it. So what do we want to do first of all with this? Well, probably the easiest way to build the picture is to say, right, well, we want to go somewhere. Well, let's plan it then. So at the moment, sorry, something keeps popping down on my screen. I just need that to go away. That's it. We are, well, some of us are here at Elstree. Oh, I was just reading what it said down there. Sorry, I've already reading the note, Tam. It's flagged up. Okay, so we're at Elstree and we're going to go to, let's go to Duxford. That's one of our places we go to a lot. So I've got multiple ways I can build this route. I can literally just click on Elstree and then just click on Duxford. And then from there, I can, if I sort of double tap, I can grab that and move it around to all different turning points and all sorts of things. So that's one way I can do it. Up here, start again is exactly that, just starts again. I can click on create route, and because it knows it's my home airfield, it will default me at Elstree. And landing out, I could just simply type Duxford. If I know the ICAO, which is EGSU, I can do that one. And again, I can just put create route. But all it's going to do for now is just put a straight line from centre to centre of the ATZ. So I've got to think about whether that's actually what I want to do. But that's how we can just create this route first of all. Okay, so tonight wasn't so much about creating the route, it was more about the actual software itself. But I would think to myself, because there's a whole load more to think about now with flight performance and planning, where's the wind coming from? Well, it's easterly today typically, so that means I'm going to be heading out for the aerodrome in this direction by Point Bravo. I would then normally go to my destination and think, how would I want to approach Duxford? And I'd need to look at maybe their website, the Pooley's plates, which we will look at in a second. And what I'll discover is the standard way is first of all just join their circuit pattern and fly around like this. Or if I ask them nicely, I could probably just go to Royston and probably just fly straight in from there. Or I'll have to just change my plan and come around and go back on myself. But that's what I'm going to end up doing. Go straight in from Royston, straight in onto runway 06? Yeah, off the top of my head, yeah, I think it's 06. Job's a good one. Then I would look at the bit in the middle and I'd be thinking, whoa, that's way too close to Luton there. I mean, I could do that. I could speak to them, ask them if I could just about clip their zone for a zone transit, but that's more work than I need. So I might just go maybe down here, for instance. That looks like a good idea. And I feel a bit happy with that route. So get myself started up, get myself out of Elstree, transition into wind, head off fire, out to the East Fire Bravo, visually navigate whilst I'm doing my free deck checks, etc., out towards South Mims, pretty much follow the M25 round, find this area here where there's a railway line going under the motorway, just underneath there. Head northbound from there. Pretty much follows the railway line. That's good. So gives me a chance to see if I'm any good at doing a heading hold, because I probably won't be looking at the screen during this necessarily. Oh, there's a circle there, but I'll come back to that. Past Hertford, heading up here, past Buntingford. Oh, that's nice. An old Roman road, the A10, converges into where I wish to then turn right and head into Duxford. Yep, I like the look of that road. Brilliant. Let's go flying. Okay. So I've created my route. What do I do next? So if I had a paper chart, I'd have drawn that line on the chart. Good. But what should I do next?
Where is it? You can't fly over.
Yeah, so Tony said, look for areas I can't fly over. Yeah. Yeah, calculate headings and timings and then fuel and all those sorts of things as well.
Copy that route onto a paper map.
Yeah, copy that route, but I might not be finished with that route yet. So if I was planning it like this, and then when I'm happy, I'm going to transfer it to my map. I would wait just for a moment in case I need to make some amendments to it. So looking at places I shouldn't be flying over, well, I have gone, as you can see, just to the south of Royston. So I'm not planning on going over the top of Royston. So I wouldn't just automatically default to the middle of the town, because it just wouldn't do that in case I'm not very high and it just wouldn't be safe/legal to do so. So if I just stay to the south, that works really well for me. I'm happy with that. I'm going to make sure hang on. There's some funny stuff here. There's some blue shading with CTA 2500 to 3500. In fact, if I just stop moving my mouse, there's a little box on the screen. On the left-hand side, in the green, it says 312. Then there seems to be not a lot. And then a blue dotted line at 2500, shaded blue in the middle with a D that goes to 3500. What the hell is all that lot?
Airspace.
Well, the green bit's the ground elevation. At that point of where my mouse currently is, 2,500 feet is where controlled airspace begins. It's Class D, and you can see by the wording on the right, that's Luton's CTA, control area. Vertically starting at 2,500 up to 3,500. And therefore, if I want to be doing anything involving that, I really ought to talk to Luton Radar on 129.550. If I go much higher than that, at 3,500 is the London terminal manoeuvring area. Go in there and you really get into trouble. Big trouble. Anyway, so you can see just by moving my mouse around, I can see the different ground elevation and what the airspace is there as well. So there's a lot of information already coming in, isn't there? Where I've put my mouse on that magenta line, it's also told me about that route leg from south of Cuffley to the via the M25 to Royston South. Currently, I've got a planned level of 2,100. How does it know that? I might want to fly at 1,900, for instance. Anyway, the distance apparently is 21, and according to that at the moment, the track is 009 true or 008 magnetic. Oh, sorry, just bear with me. Apparently, Catherine's trying to join Zoom, but she can't. Do you have that link? So there's might be something I need to tweak there about that 2,100, but again, I can come back to that. It does take me over the centre of Hertford. So that is a congested area, substantially used for habitation, which means I need to be at least 1,000 foot above the highest fixed object. I can see that Hertford town is somewhere up to maybe 200 foot above sea level. Add 1,000 foot onto that, that's 1,200 feet.
Is that what that 181 is?
Yeah, that's the ground elevation. Yeah, if I move it around. Look, what 319?
Sorry.
Yeah, it's dead handy for when doing confined areas because you can literally hover your mouse over where you're going and work out what the QFE is there. Okay, she's not responding at the moment. And so Hertford, don't know. I might need to fly around the edge of it. Come back to that in a minute. If I'm high enough, I can fly over it. But if I'm not, I need to go around it. So I'm got to try and make a decision whether to accept that or go around. There's a circle here that says surface to 1000. There's another one down there. Potter's Bar, planning to miss that. Okay, so apart from maybe a town that I probably need to think about whether I'm going to avoid or not, there's nowhere it suggests at the moment I can't fly. So what are these circles? They could be things like Tony said to avoid, maybe. I mean, this one down here with the little drone symbol, hopefully. Well, this one down here, it says surface to 1600 with a picture of a drone in the middle. I got a sneaky feeling what they're trying to warn me is that there's possible some sort of drone activity there up to 1,600 feet. Now, one of the things I haven't done yet is actually said when I'm going flying because it's just just bear with me. How do I change the settings in this? So I've just discovered, I think there's people wanting to join, but meeting over waiting room. That's weird. Won't work. Oh, okay. I don't know. I wonder if I can do it on my phone. I need something. Can somebody try and join with their telephone to see if it'll let them join Zoom?
Okay, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, thank you. I've got a feeling it could just be a 5G issue. Somebody's trying to join, but they can't. It might just be their connection. Sure, I connect. I allowed people to join at any time. Hello, James.
No.
Sorry, it's taking a while because
Yeah,
it's
no, sorry. Yeah, I've just seen Alec. So if I let Alec in, yeah, okay, all right. So yeah, all right. So it's just it's probably just somebody's internet connection. Okay, I'll carry on again. Right. Okay, yeah. So at the moment, I haven't actually said when I'm going flying, and that's really important because it might not necessarily flag up issues like NOTAMs unless I tell it when I'm going flying. The other thing it also therefore won't do is maybe sort out the weather, the wind. So it's really important I make sure I've got these sort of base settings in first of all. So over this side, I need to probably be a good idea to tell it which helicopter I'm in, which one should we be in. Oh, it's a Papa Whiskey. There we go. We use that aircraft. Good. And I need to tell it what height I'm planning to fly, whether it be the whole lot or individual legs. I can change that. So this is where we'd need to probably look at the weather, and the cloud base to help determine what I can do, because there's no point me setting a cruising level on there that I can't possibly achieve. So if the cloud base out there was 2,000 feet, there's no point me setting 2,100, is there? Because I just can't achieve it, or it'd be very silly to try and achieve it. So I need to be realistic. So let's just say for the moment, it looks like the weather forecast suggests that, because it won't at the moment, that's for sure, that I can achieve 2,100, and it's not going to take me into controlled airspace. I've got a big enough distance, etc., etc. So I'll leave that for the moment. I'm flying VFR. Again, this is going to blanket the entire route. I'm just going to put 80 knots as a cruise speed, but I can change individual legs if I really wanted to go down into that sort of detail. And here we go. Look, takeoff today or tomorrow. Now, for the purposes of being an instructor looking ahead at maybe tomorrow. So let's just say I was planning to do this tomorrow. I wouldn't necessarily know what the cloud base is yet. That'd be quite tricky because we don't necessarily get those sorts of weather reports today. But what would be very useful is it will flag up, as far as it's concerned, any NOTAMs or any temporary restricted airspaces or restricted airspaces temporary, these sorts of things. It'll flag them up. If I just put in a very specific time, i.e., there we are, look, tonight at, this is now in Zulu, in UTC, GMT. So I need to be careful with that. So 7 o'clock on there is really 8 o'clock tonight. So I'm going to put 1800. What it won't necessarily do now, look, those NOTAMs disappeared. Did you see the ones that are en route? They've gone. You can see them on there. Look, they've just disappeared. And I might suddenly think, oh, look, there's no NOTAMs to worry about tomorrow. So I've got to be very careful with dates and timings of telling it when you're going flying. But we're talking about, let's just pretend, you know, we're going to attempt to go at 8 o'clock tonight. So I better just change that then, that timing again down here. So I'll change that to 1900. 15th of April, yep, 1900 Zulu, which is 8 o'clock. Hey, who's that? Someone. No. Okay. Now, the other thing that this will do by putting a very specific time and date is when it comes to working out what the wind is, SkyDemon is tends to be very, very good at that, really accurate at either A, trying to predict it or giving you what the upper wind is right now. So remember, this is not the surface wind. This is the wind at 2,100. So if I were to change that, let's just say, I'll just stick something ridiculous on there for a minute, 10,500 feet. If you watch down here, the winds, you should find they will change. Not significantly, but they did change. So this is why it's really important if you're starting to use this for planning, you better put exactly what you plan to do. Okay. All right, so I've kind of built my route that I was sort of vaguely happy with, and I think I'm still quite happy with that. If I can fly at 2,100, I can fly over the top of Hertford. It's not that big an area. There's lots of breaks in it, etc., etc. And I've also got the option of quite easily visually just flying around the edge of it if the time comes, if we can't quite get the altitude I'm happy with. And that wouldn't be too difficult to fly visually, certainly if we were using this in the aircraft. I've set my aircraft over here, all preset. Got my level that I'm kind of just blanking the whole route at for the minute. I thought it was an actual beer for a minute.
I feel like it.
The flight rules, the cruise bat, oh, that sort of day, is it? Wasn't you going past earlier, was it?
No,
Oh,
I don't think so.
up in the cloud.
No.
Sad about that was if he didn't even know he was going.
Need a bit.
Yeah, change the subject. We're just hovering earlier, you know, because the cloud base was 200 foot, I should think. There's a radio call. Yeah, but just passing by, you know. So I looked out. Good God, you know, that's grim. I mean, you're obviously twin engine and sort of, you know, flying on instruments and autopilot, but you've got to get back down the other end anyway. My God, and a plane flew in here this morning from Guernsey.
Yeah.
I should think it was probably quite nice at Guernsey. When it came in, it broke cloud at, well, not a lot. Found the runway though. I bet they were using SkyDemon. Right, sorry, anyway. So yeah, just going back over, made sure for the purpose of whether I'm going right tonight or tomorrow, make sure I'm setting the appropriate time. It usually defaults to today and tomorrow, so it blankets a 2-day period, so you can look well ahead of everything. If we left it on so if I left it on this today or tomorrow, the winds down here will just be for now, so it will keep changing them because it's going to assume we're going to go pretty much now. But I'm going to put that specific time in there. Cool. All right.
Where does it derive the wind information from?
Don't know where it derives it from.
Yeah. What's the source? Because I've wondered this because it is really good.
It is really good. So I'll be honest, I don't know. So somebody can find out and tell me.
Yeah.
It's
Something maybe.
I'd like to say it's getting from the Met Office down at Exeter. How it does that, I don't know. I'm not a
Yeah.
computer programmer, but somebody's going to be very clever and tell me that, oh, actually, well, you know, if you find the source code and blah, 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 etc., and you can then embed it or whatever you call it. So I'm not the expert. Sophie's online. She can probably tell us how it happens and where it comes from. But it is generally really accurate. It's incredible if you put the all right details in.
Can't be the Met then.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Anyway, just in case. And hey, it's like Kyle. Hey, he's stolen somebody's phone. Judging by the username. Anyway,
It
hey,
can't
it's
be in
good.
Scotland, it's too light.
I know, look at that. He's up in you in Inverness. He's trying to find the unmute button. Hang on.
Good luck with your SkyDemon.
Oh yeah, Aviemore at the moment on a night shift, but still daylight, nothing happening. So
Did you say Avimore?
I'm in Aviemore in the car park of the hospital, just waiting for my next punter.
Oh dear, that's the technical term, isn't it, for patient? It looks like half decent weather there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've just looked at the map behind us. It actually looks quite good, isn't it? According to that. Anyway, right, okay. Just in case anybody new that's joined us, right in the beginning, we said about not over-reliance on this sort of stuff. So remember, tonight is not about, well, this is good, that's it, we never need paper maps again or anything else. No, this is just about what it can do for us. And it's not a substitute for charts, etc., maps and heading holes with stopwatches and compasses, etc., etc. Okay, right, I've got my right date and time. So what should I do next? So I'm happy with the route. I put my date and time in there. I selected the aircraft and what kind of blanketed the route at the moment, 2,100 VFR, the whole lot at 80 knots. In reality, I can't fly the whole lot at 80 knots, obviously, because when I'm hovering, it's definitely not at 80 knots. Well, it's not normally anyway.
What is this thing called hovering you mentioned?
Hey!
What is this mystical thing you talk about?
It's a combination of the dark arts, a bit of fairy dust, and shut your eyes usually works a bit better. Oh dear, I don't know why people make a fuss of hovering, honestly. But anyway, I like you when you get it, you'll look back and chuckle at somebody else going, "Oh, how'd you hover? It's impossible." And you go, "Oh, yeah, I could do it straight away." They'll be like that. Right, what should I do next?
We check to pre-flight and reflight.
Yeah, we're as in the helicopter.
Yeah.
Do you mean? Oh, we're a little way off that yet. So, and tonight's not so much about checking the helicopter. It's about this kind of planning process and what SkyDemon can do for us if we use it properly. So it's about learning the ins and outs of SkyDemon.
What we do next after this?
No. What's going to be next? I don't expect you to know, Blunt. I'm just seeing what you can think of for planning purposes and what this might be able to do for us. Because I realise you haven't used this, so you don't know much. But what
Go
else
and
can...
check the actual official sources for NOTAMs.
Yeah, good.
or-
Yeah, yes. You might want to just
you know-
cross-check because,
Yeah.
as we said, this is only as good as the programmer, the internet connection, all those sorts of things. But for the second, I'm going to say, it's probably doing a half decent job of the NOTAMs, but I haven't actually checked the NOTAMs on it yet, have I? I mean, I saw some. There's a circle here. Look, if I hover over that circle, it says unmanned aircraft scheduled. surface to 2,000 foot, 2 nautical miles, etc., and it'll blanket the date, as you can see, 21st of Feb to the 20th of May. Flying large models, and I can tell you now they were quite large when it nearly hit me. That's why that NOTAM's there. Must be nearly 9 years ago now. Anyway, model flying site. Okay, so I can see them on there, but can I see all the NOTAMs? No, and this is the whole point. You'd need to know that. Otherwise, if you're not careful, you think, oh, look, there's literally one NOTAM over there,
Abstract ones.
and I'm not planning on flying near it. Happy days, off we go. So how do I find out about the NOTAMs? Well, up here. Hey! And we can see that I've got show on map, because if I uncheck that, that NOTAM disappears. And this is the whole, not problem with the program, but the problem with the user, isn't it? It's user error. If somebody accidentally taps on that, they no longer appear. So they're looking at this going, oh, there's no NOTAMs now. Brilliant. So just as something as simple as that, watch out. It's a bit like filtering. If you're not careful, you can filter them and turn too many of them off, and you don't get to see them anymore. So I tend to not filter them and just leave the whole lot on there. But what you'll find is there's a whole load that really don't apply to us about flying over some dodgy areas in Europe and those sorts of things. Well, we're clearly not planning to go to Europe right now. Not in this nav anyway, yet. No, if I've ended up in Europe going to Duxford, I've really done something wrong. And of course, we can see that because of if you can see the little black arrows, the direction of this current plan is to go from Elstree to Duxford. So that's how we created it. And so the NOTAMs more or less go in order. You can see they start with Elstree. Well, straight away, it says the taxiway is closed. Well, it doesn't say there's a NOTAM down here, does it? But there's a list of them. Taxiway Charlie's closed. Taxiway Delta's closed. That's because they're mostly grass taxiways and they're too soggy. Obstacle erected on the airfield. And if I were to click view on map, funny enough, it kind of shows me where it's talking about, where you can see it's referencing the north side grass. Well, that is very pertinent to us. And ironically, if I look out the window, I can see exactly what they're talking about. A big structure out there. Talks about cranes as well, of course. Now, is that at the aerodrome? Yes, it would appear to be. It's actually just out over there somewhere, apparently. And you can see the height of it is 180 foot that goes up to 534 feet above sea level, in other words, on the QNH, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to read through every single NOTAM. You can see Dave and Trevor wanted to go home early. The second we finished flying, they NOTAM'd it closed. They deactivated. And off they went because of the weather, presumably, because otherwise they'd normally stay later till sunset. The unmanned aircraft, view on map. There it is, down near Cuffley, etc., etc. Like I say, but there will be some obscure ones. So then it starts to go on about well, that's Lippett's Hill, so that's not that far away. It's over here. You can see that red little circle. I'm not planning on flying over there, but we do also think to ourselves, what if I need to divert? What if I actually go wrong? What am I at risk of accidentally flying into? So we do need to think about the bigger picture, a bit of a wider, 5-10 miles left as right of the track, just in case I need to divert because of weather. And we can set all that up within the settings as to how far away it will look for NOTAMs for you, and those sorts of things. So now it's on the en route stuff, and it'll show about all sorts of things that are erected. We can see landing at Duxford. There's clearly something there as of the 12th of June 2025. Oh no, it's been cancelled. It's been cancelled. Aircraft administrator data telephone. All right, so we can look at that if necessary. And then there's often general hazardous situations, for instance, in Myanmar, not Miramar. So you can see that it can cover a huge, great area. Okay, so let's just say that we've checked the NOTAMs for a minute. We're happy with what there is around us, and we can avoid the model flying, etc., etc. The chances are the model flying probably isn't going to be happening at 8 o'clock tonight, but it might be, but probably isn't. But I know it. I'm going to mark it on my chart. Happy days. So let's say for the moment, we'll just say NOTAMs are done. What else?
Sorry, mind if I interrupt for a quick second? I noticed you've got VFR flight rules there,
Yep.
and we're looking at flying at 8 o'clock. Does
Yep.
it take that into consideration? You know, sunrise, sunset, all of that?
No,
mean,
this could be VFR at night. I could literally change that to 10 o'clock tonight. There we go. So because of course we can do VFR at night, so we wouldn't be on instrument flight rules at night. So we can fly VFR at night, no problem at all. With the
Right,
correct.
so I didn't know that. Thank you.
Does it change anything if you send it to IFR? Can it do IFR? Does
Yep.
that change anything? Oh,
Change the style of chart because of course
look.
potentially if you are well, of course everybody forgets we can fly IFR rules in a lovely clear sunny day and be able to see the ground. It's just the rules you are applying to your flight, of course, isn't it? It doesn't mean say you're not looking out the window. It doesn't mean say you can't see anything. However, usually, well, not usually, but the chances are if you're flying IFR, you're probably in IMC. In other words, you can't see where the heck you're going or the ground, or you could be above the cloud, but either way around. So therefore, you can see how it changes the style of map from terrain features. It's suddenly focusing heavily on airspaces, different types of routes in and out of VORs and all sorts of other things. So it changes the style of the map. Doesn't alter any of this stuff down here, though. Of course, why would it? Still the same, isn't it? If you're planning to fly at that time, at that height, at that speed, in that direction, the wind is what it is. There's your drift. There's your magnetic heading. So it won't change any of that. But it certainly changes the style of the chart. Incidentally, if you just a quick aside, as a small cheat, the heli lanes. So if I just put VFR back on for a minute, I know I'm just slightly going off, but it's just whilst I think of it in case I forget, because there's so much. I'm not sure I could cover. Well, I couldn't possibly cover everything this could do in the next hour and 5 minutes. It's just not possible. Just to give you an idea of what it can do for you. These are the heli lanes in London. Now, when you're in the helicopter flying along with all this other detail, this is actually not that easy to spot. We could zoom in a lot more and go into a 1 in 50,000, or a little hack is enable IFR, and then when you're in the heli lanes, if you click IFR, ka-ching, suddenly it's like, whoa, they're much easier to see now. You can easily see the altitudes, the directions, and all the rest of it. And you can toggle how much you have on and off when it's in IFR, the map layers. So you can add a few more layers in that you want. But yeah, it's suddenly it's one of our wonderful students who passed some time ago, Peter Hardy Jones, told me about that little hack. He's like, oh, that's quite cool. I like that. But you have to enable the IFR features or functionality of it, or else you can't do it. But yeah, suddenly it makes the heli lanes much easier to see on this. Okay. Anyway, we'll just go back to VFR. So I was trying to get out somebody. What should I do next? If you need me just to quickly recap, sorry, if you don't want me to recap, just stick your hand up. But we've actually opened the application, accepted it, not changed the language, planned our route, decided heights and all the rest of it, which helicopter. We've looked at the NOTAMs because I set exactly the date and time that I'm going. Oops, I better change that back. Look, see, user error. Mustn't forget. So we said 1900 Zulu, so that's 8 o'clock local time today. Right, that's better. Tony said, weather. Yeah, better look at that. Make sure it's going to be okay to go flying. Now, remember, this is not a substitute for things like the Met Office, not in any way, shape or form. It's just that it can overlay all this on top of this, but I would still check the Met Office, NOTAMs, TAFs, etc. But it can do a lot of this for us. But we did say in the beginning, remember, not over-reliance upon it and understand where all the other sources of information come from in case it doesn't work. You know, maybe it's broken today, it doesn't want to work. I need to know where else I can get all the info from. And that's what you learn over the period of the course. Okay, so weather. Where am I going to find the weather on all this then, Tony?
On the right hand side on my tabs, the way I've set it up.
Yeah, there's a flyable one, but this is all depending on how we set it up. Of course, it warns you, etc., and all that sort of jazz. Loosely speaking, if you can see the map, it's half decent. If it's obscured by some amber, it's probably not great. If it's red, it's not brilliant, is it? It's fairly logical, isn't it, for that side of things? So that could just give us a bit of an idea that, oh my word, just looking at this, it could be touch and go if we plan to go at that time because of whatever is up here. Okay, so we'll just take that off for a minute. Well, over here is a weather tab. If I click on that, it could give me lots of information. There we are. Look at things like Benson. Again, I'm not going to scroll for every single one. What I'll do is I will find, and this can be in alphabetical order or in order of your route, etc., those sorts of things. If I just quickly find London, Stansted or Luton, because that's where we're going to be flying quite near. And again, tonight's not about a decoding taps and all the rest of it, but it's 7 minutes old. It's already kind of suggesting this amber M is not ideal. I'd want that really to be green to if you're going to use some sort of traffic light system. But it depends how this has been set up, and we haven't even looked at that yet. So I've got to come into that. This is that whole what do we do first, isn't it? And it would talk about the weather, etc., etc. It's suggestive that the visibility of the surface is 10 kilometers or more. Happy days, but the cloud is scattered at 300 foot. So I can already tell I'm not going anywhere. But let's just pretend that it was scattered at 3,000 feet and there was nothing particularly untoward about the weather forecast within there. So I think, okay, happy days. See, I'd have to look at all the others, but let's just say it's actually pretty good out there at the moment. All right, so I've now checked the weather on there as far as that's concerned. Another way I can do it, but you've got to make sure they're enabled, is up here. Ah, this is where my mouse pointer disappears. I don't know why it does that sometimes. It's my laptop does it. Up the top, can you see where it says METARs and TAFs? If I touch that, notice how they suddenly disappeared off the chart. If I touch it again, you get the red and amber and green dots all over it. So again, I've seen people trying to use SkyDemon, some of our students, and they're saying, I can't see the weather on the chart. It's like, yeah, because you've just touched the tab up there, or somebody has, it's disappeared. The same with the wind one. This will put on the upper wind vectors, as you can see. And if let's come back again. If I hover over one of them, it reckons the wind there is at 187 degrees at 18 knots. So that's at 2,100 foot for 8 o'clock tonight. So it's a forecast of the wind rather than the actual right now. So you really have to be careful that I enable or disable these little tabs up here. There's also this really useful one, which is the rainfall radar. But my screen's gone pink. Why is that? It's pink rain out there. It's all the dust. It's all the dust and pollution coming out of the sky. So what's happened?
That's showing cloud. Cloud cover.
Doesn't have the data. What happens if you zoom out?
Oh, just say that again, James.
Doesn't have the data, or what happens if you zoom out? One of those two.
Yeah, I'm zooming out. That doesn't seem to work.
Do you
In
have,
fact, the whole lot's gone pink.
do you have to put flyable on as well, or something?
Try
I've
that.
got with
I mean, I'm gonna do classic pilot stuff. Just keep pressing buttons till eventually something works. And when it works, I'm gonna stop and don't touch it. Don't touch it. It's working. By the way, that's what we do when we find a new bit of kit in the helicopter. You just keep
Prod it.
just prod till eventually it works. Oh, stop. We read the manuals really, honestly. Right, okay, so something's wrong here. I've clicked rainfall, but it's not showing me the rainfall. There clearly is rain out there. I know there was because it came through here earlier. And it's because I've put a time in the future. So it doesn't do forecast rain. So I need to just change that back for a moment to maybe today or even today and tomorrow. And as soon as I do that, aha, it comes back again. There's an animate function. So we can animate. It'll just take a moment for it to kind of do its thing. There we go. So it'll animate the rain for me and the wind. Look at this, a bit like windy, for instance, which is really quite cool. You can see the timestamp down here at the bottom. So you can see this is at just coming up for 6 o'clock. This is where the rain just had gone through north of us. I know I'm zoomed right out at the moment. So you can see this is at 7 o'clock local time. So now it's showing me the forecast of the rain. because that's now 8 o'clock. So it's just a little weird anomaly thing that if you set a future time down here, it takes the rainfall radar off. If you just put today or tomorrow and then click, for instance, animate, it will then show you the future forecast of it up to where you can see it's gone an hour ahead of us, and then it will loop back round again. Yeah, so it's it's one of those things you just need to know that's what happens. Otherwise, and it happens in the helicopter as well. You can make the screen go pink if you've got a future date put in there or time in there, and suddenly you're looking for the rainfall radar and it doesn't show it. And you're like, oh my gosh, I was hoping to see that. Okay, so it's just a little quirky thing to watch out for. I'll tell you what I will try, because they do change the software. I'm just going to put a slight future time in there. So I'm going to put 18:30 just to see what it does with the rainfall radar. Okay, yeah, so it didn't mind that. It was the fact I put it too far ahead. So if I now change that to 2000, will it go pink again? No, it's just stopped, doesn't it? Look. So this is just a programming thing now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It hasn't even moved anymore, has it?
Clouds aren't moving now, are they?
Yeah, and I'm on animate as well. So
Yeah.
no, it still doesn't like it. I'll just quickly try something again. I'll just put 18:30, so it's only about half hour ahead of us, and just see. Okay, yeah, look, so it does put it back on there. So it doesn't like it more than an hour ahead then. Well, I've learned something new tonight. So why did it not like? Because 8 o'clock local is less than an hour ahead. Well, that's bizarre. So it's happy with it now. Now I've put it not too far ahead. Okay.
Set it at 5 minutes past 8. See if it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So it's what? So there we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just an hour ahead. And yeah, but I assume if I put a silly time in there, like 4 or 5 o'clock earlier. No, see, it will show me what the. But so you can see how down here though it's gone pink, warning me it's a time in the past. So I'll go back to what we were originally saying. Let's pretend we're flying at 8 o'clock tonight. Okay, so we see that not only is there a weather tab over this side with lots of interesting information, as you can see on here, they're warning you about embedded thunderstorms in the local flight information region. Of course, if I just click on map, it'll just show that area, for instance. But there's a whole load in amongst all that lot whizzing through. As long as I've got my appropriate tabs clicked up here, I can see things like the taximeters. And if I hover over one of those red exclamation marks, you can see it flags up London, the METAR and the TAF. Again, tonight's not about decoding all of those. It's just showing you what it can do for us. So I can get this weather information in at least easy 2 ways, by the tab over this side or just hovering over the airports that produce these forecasts where I'm going or where the weather's coming from. You can see behind it, it's actually looking quite good. North Holt supposedly got few clouds at 2,600 and broken at 5,800 feet, etc., etc. So the front, if I were to look at the synoptic charts, the front's moved through. That's quite clearly where it went through early when Tony was putting the helicopters away. All right, okay. So we've looked at NOTAMs. We've loosely looked at the weather as well, what this can provide for us. What else do I need to do or think about? Or
I can see the weights and fuel there on the right hand side.
yes, that's right. Now, I've selected the Cadbury G2, and if you fly the Cadbury, you'll know it's a French aircraft. It's metric. Well, this looks metric, but that doesn't. And if I click on it, you can see, yeah, look, it's all in pounds. Well, okay, we could convert it, you know, but we're very used to when we're dealing with the Cadbury doing it all in metric. We're not sort of crossing over. 1 minute we're doing metric, and then the next thing we're doing imperial, etc., etc. And unless they've altered something, let me have a quick see if I can change the units. I don't think you can. No, see, it's up here. Yeah, it's still. It doesn't let you change the unit. So therefore, you've either got to just do everything converted, or what I've done in the past is just ignored the unit and just still done the numbers as per kilos, because it didn't really matter as long as you remembered you'd done that. So that is something we would like changed, is the ability to alter the units that we're operating in. If it's a Robinson, we do it all in pounds, feet, and inches, etc. Those sorts of things. We also do some of it in metric, but the Cadbury is definitely is metric, so that ought to be in kilos, but it isn't. We then also, I think, if I remember rightly, no, that does look about right, because the envelope hasn't got a unit on there. It didn't matter too much when you were doing the, setting up the flight envelope. But you can see it's this side, it's the pounds problem, is the problems, because it's all been done in pounds. So then you'd have to change the flight envelope to match the pounds and all this sort of thing. So to cut a long story short, I don't use SkyDemon for weight and balance. I do that completely separately. But you could set it all up for that if you wanted to. But we tend to do that completely differently. We tend to use, well, either A, the actual flight manual of the aircraft, or B, a very detailed spreadsheet where we can see all the calculations on it. So again, we can learn from that and see if there's any errors. So I tend to leave weight and balance. I wouldn't use SkyDemon for weight and balance personally. And again, it's also trying to make sure that we don't think of it as a complete one-stop shop, so that we are still using other sources of information. So be warned if you use our SkyDemon, don't just go, oh, it's all right, I'll just do the weight and balance on here, and it's not set up properly for it. I might change it all to 0 so it can't even be used. And that way there's no way somebody could be fooled into using that. Okay. So weight and balance is something we would definitely need to do, but we're going to do that separately as far as I'm concerned for now. What else? Well, I suppose one of the things we really ought to do is backpedal a little bit and actually make sure this is set up for how you want it to be used. Arranging from the appropriate language, for instance, the appropriate chart, all these sorts of things. Well, what about the settings? You know, we've been saying this flyable one is a really interesting one. It's suggesting that actually it'll be okay-ish, but under what circumstances? What were the parameters that have been set into it? So we had something happened with one, you know, it's all about learning, isn't it? When you're a student, of course it is, and beyond there. So somebody that was teaching, and they kind of were using SkyDemon to help aid them in their planning. They'd then transpose this all onto their handwritten plog, so it's good. They didn't just try and print it off, which is a function it can do. They'd tried to handwrite it all, brilliant, okay. And we got down to this little column down here, MSAs. So what does MSA stand for?
Minimum safe altitude.
Minimum safe altitude. Okay, what determines that?
The height of the ground.
Yeah,
And you
well, the ground's changing all the time out there.
get any structures above the ground.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But what, directly underneath you, near you?
Well,
How far away?
Well, within your safe limitation on.
Well, what's your safe limitation? I mean, not being funny, I've seen you fly. Your heading holds on great. I'm only messy.
That's why mine's fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, that's right. That's why you just
In here in France.
West Coast, East Coast. Yeah. But you can hear what's happening here, you know. You might think, well, I'm going to fly this very accurately within, 50 foot, or I'm going to fly it within 50 miles. Yeah, okay, well, which one are we going to pick? What have we picked? Who set this up? And, you know, and what height above an object or the ground?
Well, that's based on air law
Yeah, but it shouldn't just be, I mean, you know, that's
and common sense.
potentially air law might be rock bottom as far as safety is concerned. I'm not suggesting that makes it unsafe. I'm just saying air law is air law. It doesn't necessarily mean that is safe or unsafe.
Mm.
That's just air law. So we mustn't break the law. So even if we think it's safe to do something, if it's breaking air law, we shouldn't do it.
No.
So that would definitely be one of the bases of, you know, we talked about flying over Hertford. You know, I said I need to be at least 1,000 foot above the highest fixed object just to be legal. Never mind about safe.
Plus the no TAMs, because there was one there.
Yeah,
that
good.
surfaced as
Mm.
1,000 or
Won't take that into account.
1,600
Yeah.
cranes in the area, especially coming in.
So in others, there's actually quite a lot to take in consideration. This is not just a quick, simple, oh, well, let's just call it 1,200 foot. There's a lot to be considered when we talk about minimum safe altitudes. And potentially along a leg. So if I just zoom back in a minute, back on our South of Cuffley going up to Royston leg, I can see on here straight away, there's a little symbol here. I'll zoom in a tiny bit more. Of what looks like a tower. If I hover over it, well, it tells me that one is supposedly 751 feet above sea level, because we're going to be flying on QNH. So therefore, if we need to straight away add 500 foot. And then there's another one hiding over here. Now, according to that one, that's 925 feet above sea level. Okay, that's getting quite high now, as far as QNH is concerned. And if the weather momentarily round there wasn't great and I diverted slightly off to the west and I flew a little bit lower, but I looked out and it's lovely open ground, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not exactly unsafe. I'm at 1,200 feet, but I hadn't realised there's a mast at 925. I'm going to miss it, but I'm not legally missing it. So suddenly there's a problem, isn't there? So down this end, there could be, you know, reasons for that minimum safe altitude to be much higher than maybe over this area. There's literally not a lot out there, apart from the ground is somewhere around about 400 foot. So you could argue and say, well, at 920 feet, I'm legal, but that wouldn't necessarily be safe, obviously. So the minimum safe altitude around there might be lower than certainly the beginning of this leg. But what it'll do is SkyDemon will use the parameters I set and it'll just blanket the entire route at the worst case scenario, i.e. via the tallest object, mast or ground that I've said within a certain distance. But what distance have we set? So anyway, this poor student, now let me just think what they've done. Now which way around was it? They planned a nav, they've written minimum safe altitude. I said, oh, okay, and what's your minimum safe altitude for that leg? And I said something like, I think it was about 2,000 feet. Okay, what height are you planning to fly at? Oh, at 2,000 feet. So you're planning to fly at your minimum safe altitude. Oh, no, I can go lower than that. But you've just said your minimum safe altitude is 2,000 feet. Oh, yeah, that's what SkyDemon said. So you're going to use that or you're going to ignore it? Oh, and you could kind of see this whole, I don't know now, actually. It's okay, come on, look. Ignore what SkyDemon says for a second, because it probably hasn't been set up right, or it is set up right. Have a look at your chart. Have a look at your route. What obstacles are there? How much do you think you could go off course? And all these sorts of things. I said, come up with your own sensible one. Start off, first of all, definitely being legal without a shadow of a doubt, and then think about the safety side of it. You know, what if something went wrong? How much height do you need to turn that thing back into wind to land it, etc., etc.? Or get yourself clear of Hertford, for instance. All these sorts of things. So I've waffled on enough. We probably better have a look and see if these are actually, you know, vaguely sensible. We can see that apparently at the moment, from South Mims, from South of Cuffley, going up to Royston, 21 nautical miles, a minimum safe altitude of 1,500 foot. Well, that sounds kind of, just on the face of it, reasonable, even if we took into consideration the tall mast, not that one over there, even though it's a bit of a way off. It's easily added 500 foot on top of there for legality purposes, hasn't it? So 1,500 foot kind of sounds sensible for now anyway. Right, I guess we better go into setup and have a look at planning options maybe. And this is where we can set things like default map scales, home airfields, my details, all this sort of stuff. Show IFR features is there. I see, but it's slightly different on our telephones, but that's what you need to enable. automatically download airfield plates. No, I don't need to do that because we can do those individually. It's fine.
What was this setup? Was it?
Yes, in setup
Yeah.
up the top there. Remember, this is going to look a little bit different on your telephone or the iPad,
Yeah,
but the
which
basics are still
yeah.
the same. This is for in the classroom at the moment.
Yeah.
Like I say, there's no way I can go for everything tonight, so we'll do another one of these for when maybe you're in the aircraft. I might quickly skim through some of the aircraft stuff, but we'll focus on this one for now. So yeah, into setup. I'll do it again. So click setup. At the moment, I've gone, because you can see there's other stuff available. I've gone into planning options. In general, warnings and minimum safe altitudes. Haha. So this is where you need to make sure you've got selectable. I just have everything selected, so it'll warn me about just about everything. There it is. But so watch it. I've put on here, and this is the one that, so see, this is all on one account. So this will be the same in every aircraft and back in the flying school, because I want people to think about them themselves rather than just pluck them off a SkyDemon. So I cut them right down to the minimums. So I've got it down to 500-foot vertical terrain clearance, a beam literally just 1 mile away, so it's not going to look very far. And same with the obstructions, as you can see, but I've done obstructions a bit further. Because terrain, if you can't see the ground, you shouldn't be flying. So and if you can't see a bit of high ground that's coming up in front of you, you just shouldn't be flying. There's just no way. There's no two ways about it, is there?
So where's that going to warn you then? If you was to within 5 nautical miles of an obstacle, where would it show up?
Well, this is how it'll start to plan its minimum safe altitudes. So what it will do now is it's going to look left or right, 5 nautical miles of that magenta line, and it's going to put your minimum safe altitude straight away at 500 foot higher than any obstruction, i.e. the mast. Now you think, hang on, the mast was at 925 feet. Even my rubbish maths knows that if you put 500 on that, that is not 1,500 feet.
Oh, it's rounded up.
It's rounded up to the nearest
I'm just
100.
worried about this surface of 1,600.
But that's not an obstruction.
It's a NOTAM.
It's a NOTAM.
Got it.
So they're different, aren't they?
Right.
NOTAM is not an obstruction. It may be. Yeah, it could be.
Well, that's
But
yeah.
that was that. So we look at that separately. Remember, we're looking at all these things individually, aren't we? Not collectively necessarily. And again, it's that understanding of what it's showing you. And this is not the problem with SkyDemon. This is the problem with users not realizing what it's telling you. Just like the bit of kit in the aircraft. I don't know. I can't. It's got a whole load of numbers, but I know if I just keep it in one of these buttons, it works. But come on, what is it actually telling you? So yeah, know how this stuff works. Now, I don't want anybody to fiddle with these because it'll potentially alter the settings on everything. So what I can say to everybody is watch it, because I've cut it right down to not quite the bare minimum, but it's not far off. So these minimum safe altitudes down here almost ought to be your absolute rock bottom minimums. You ought to come up with your own ones though. But watch it, because if you're using your own SkyDemon, how's it set?
That's
Are
right.
you just using the
Really,
are you just using the default settings? You could be.
Yeah.
And this is the whole problem when somebody's using it for their planning. They couldn't work out how it was flagging up a 2,000 foot minimum safe altitude. So when I showed them this, it got something like, 1,000 foot vertical terrain clearance or more, or whatever it was. I can't remember. But that was how they got. Yeah, so it probably was set on 1,000 foot vertical terrain clearance. What was it? No, obstacle clearance. Sorry, obstacle clearance. And that's where it got.
804.
That's where they got their.
That's the default.
That's the
I haven't
default,
fiddled
is
with
it?
Yeah. 800 feet and 4 nautical miles.
Yeah. So you need to make sure you've
And then
set up how
1,000
you
for the
want to use
obstruction.
it.
And 5 nautical miles.
Yeah, the obstruction would make sense because that's why it had 2,000 as a minimum safe
Yeah,
altitude
absolutely,
on this
yeah.
very specific leg.
Yeah. I don't know where they pulled 800 from.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
weather, same thing. Watch out. Because I've put, supposedly on here, just for purposes of, for being able to view it on a screen, what we're saying for good VFR for us in helicopters, depending on what we're doing, is 1,500 foot above ground level is considered pretty good, not bad. And visibility of 8K or more, I'm saying is, it's pretty good. After that, amber sort of it all starts to drop down, as you can see. So you've got to watch how all this stuff's set up. And this is where you could set up fuel price if you really wanted to, so you could work out how much it's going to cost you in fuel in these legs allegedly and all the rest of it. Again, I've not bothered with any of that because we do that completely differently. We work it out ourselves sensibly within the what aircraft we're operating. We know it's fuel burn. I don't need a computer to tell me or a program to tell me how much fuel that Cadbury burns. I know it depends exactly how you fly it, which one and how you fly it, those sorts of things. So yeah, I don't want to just pluck that number off the screen, as it were. Okay. We've then also got within setup navigation options. And you can see I've got about using internet in flight so that the helicopter with our iPads, with the SIM cards, if it's got the data connection, which is not great in the UK if you're above about 1,500 foot above the ground, will use the internet to help update its information on there, whether it be weather, NOTAMs, airspace, whatever, all these sorts of things. Glide slope is just about it's just it's like a simulated chevrons going in and out of airfields. It just kind of gives you a bit of an idea of the typical approach paths that aircraft might be taking in and out. And it kind of the default one is a 4 degrees one, because I think fixing them about 3.5 degrees, if I remember rightly, depending on what they're doing, unless they're going into city airports, about 9 degrees like us. You can choose your icon, your color. I've gone for that color, not because I like that color, but because it kind of stands out, contrast from the other colors. Whether it's solid or not, etc., etc. Default orientation, I like north up, all these sorts of things. Warnings, warn about terrain. This is airborne, of course. This is not for planning. This is for when you're actually flying. Warning time 2 minutes. Now, on this one, I'll talk about this in a second. So, warn about terrain. So if you're descending at a rate that in 2 minutes' time means you'll hit the ground, it will start warning you. It's going to try and make sure you've got at least a 500-foot vertical clearance and a 1 nautical mile. Warn about obstructions. As you can see, 1 minute, 500 foot, 1 nautical mile. It's quite close, so be careful. Airspace warnings. It becomes the industry advocates the use of electronic moving maps when we're flying, because they can really help avoid things like airspace infringements, but only if we've got it programmed and have taken notice. So there was I read a report about an airspace infringement that it would transpire that, and I've seen it happen as well. It flags up on the screen, airspace warning. You think, oh, I'm miles away, I'll just cancel that out. Because it's been set with like a 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute warning. So they're in the climb. Well, I'm around here. If you climb at say 500 foot per minute and the airspace is 1,000 foot away, it'll warn you in 2 minutes' time you're going to bust airspace, because it's looking at what you're currently doing. You think, I'm only up blooming 1,500 foot or whatever kind of thing. Oh, I'll just cancel that out. Up we go, climbing away, and the next thing you know, oh my God, that's close. I hit 2,400. Thank God I checked the altimeter. Why didn't it warn me? And oh, it did. I just got so used to cancelling it. It's the same with terrain warnings. Yeah, James has done lots of low-level flying. You fly around, the various whales and God knows what else. It's permanently warning you. And you almost, if you're not careful, get sick and tired, and you kind of just quieten down and I can see the ground. Yeah, and if you're not careful, you get conditioned to quietening these warnings.
Yeah, you mute it.
You mute it. We've seen mute functions in aircraft for warning buzzers. People muting them, not realising they've done it. Low RPM one springs to mind in the Cadbury. I had students in auto. We got really
sure to mute it.
You not heard about this? This is why we stopped teaching the mute function. Sorry, just going off slightly, but you Cadbury pilots. So quite some time ago, first time I'd ever seen this, I said practice engine failure go to a student, and they've kind of done that kind of, huh? As in what now? Yeah, practice engine failure go. Oh, they're lowering the lever, and I'm carefully, but I'm closing the throttle. And they're not pushing the lever down properly. The RPM's coming down, the low RPM horns on, and they went, chink, and muted it, and then carried on with the low RPM. Oh, I'm sort of sitting there, well, this is interesting. I've not seen this before. The RPM was stable. Let me just get this. The RPM was stable, and I'm ready to do, take over. But I thought, I want to see what happens next. And I'm kind of looking at the student, and are you going to do anything about that? What? The low RPM? They're like this. It was a shock to them that it was a low RPM. oh, and I'm pushing the lever down. And we recovered and the rest of it. And I sort of said to him, why did you mute it? Like, did I? Yeah, you literally just, we got low RPM and you just went click and pressed it down. I took it as a one-off. 2 weeks later, a different student did the same thing. Exactly the same thing. Wow. I was
They
like, right.
associate the sound with
Yes.
muting.
They got
Yeah.
so conditioned to the convenience of the mute function. It's never happened in the Jet Ranger, weirdly enough, but
Mm.
yeah. So, yeah, so we stopped teaching the mute function in the Capri because it's only convenience. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just convenience. We found other ways of muting it without having to touch the switch. Just roll the RPM down further when you're on the ground. Anyway, so watch it with these airspace warnings. If you're not careful, I have found with experience that if you make the margin too great, which sounds like a really good idea to give yourself a massive buffer, but the problem is you'll ignore it and think, oh, it's all right because it's warning me prematurely. So personally, I tend to have them set up not at the last second, but a lot closer. So if it's warning me, as in I need to do something about it now, not in a minute, not in 2 minutes, but like now. So this is why I've got mine down to the 1 minute. So it'll look at the rate of climb. So if I'm climbing at 1,000 foot per minute and I'm passing through 1,500, it will start warning me of airspace. Because if I carry on like that, yeah, in 60 seconds, I'm in it. That kind of thing. So again, watch out. Be careful how it's set up. Make sure you understand the setup of it all. Okay? Yes? Good. Right. Okay. So let's just say that we're happy with the setup of the planning options of how much it's going to warn, etc. We would be looking at a paper chart anyway to see if these minimum safe altitudes, if we're happy with them. So I wouldn't normally just look at those and think, no, they're all right. I would look at my chart, work out my own ones, and they usually are very similar. But those minimum safe altitudes might depend on the visibility out there, the daylight, etc., etc. If it's getting if it's a smidgen darker because it's wintertime or whatever, or an overcast day, you might want to just up them a tiny bit more because it's a lot harder to judge distances away from things. Yeah? Right. Okay. So we're happy with the setup. We're happy with the route. We've been looking at all of our sort of NOTAMs and whatnots. We've seen we can look at the weather on here. We could do weight and balance, but we're going to personally, I'd like to teach that separately and don't use this for that because it's better else. I think it's better on the spreadsheet, to be honest, without doubt, or the flight manual, POH itself. We looked at things like the minimum safe altitudes. I haven't quite touched upon the rest of this down here yet. So I might as well carry on with that now because we were just talking about minimum safe altitudes. Oops, go away. That's it. So if I just do that route overview again, just so you can see the whole route. Now, when we're flying this, as I said to you, flying out of Elstree, there's no way I need a pink line on this, even a chart, to know which way to go. I know my way out of here. You study the airfield, aerodrome, and all the rest of it. And of course, your instructor shows you over time, look, these are the visual outside clues of how you get in and out on the altitudes. So we've only really put the lines on here, perhaps maybe for up in the top right-hand corner to show me the total distance. And very careful, but the potential airborne time. Well, I know there's no way you can fly me from here to Duxford, start up and shut down in 26 minutes. It's just no way you're going to do that. We normally allow 45 minutes from start up to shutdown. So where the heck did the extra 20 minutes come from?
Is that because it's done constant speed?
Yes.
80.
So it's assuming the second the rotor's turn, twang, you're 80 knots, and you stop at Duxford, 80 knots, top and shut down, instant. Yeah. So if we were up in the air flying and we flew over the top of Elstree at 80 knots and we started the stopwatch and then we stopped the stopwatch as we go over the top of Duxford, yes, there's a slim chance you might hit 26 minutes if you fly that perfectly at 80 knots and the weather doesn't change. So yeah, it doesn't accommodate starting up, warming up, especially in wintertime, the helis take longer, getting airborne, as in off the ground, being held if it's busy, north side grass, are you going to backtrack on, you're going to backtrack, blah, blah, all these sorts of things, that all takes up time. So be careful with, oh, it's only going to take 26 minutes. You need to think way more than that. Now we can build that into SkyDemon. There are settings in here, we can tell it typically how long we might want to, we're going to have to wait for on the ground, all these sorts of things. But that's a variable. It changes. Pilot to pilot, heli to heli, day to day, hot engine, cold engine, all these sorts of things. So we much prefer you to think about that logically yourself and allow an amount of time either end based on what you think and your experience and all the rest of it. Yeah, happy with that? Okay. So therefore, to be honest, as far as planning purposes, with the down here, the level, the true airspeed, the track, the magnetic track you're going to fly, the wind vector, the heading you're actually going to hold the thing, and the ground speed and the time, about the only one I might consider using, really, for now, would be that long leg, that south of Cuffley going up to Royston. I would measure it. I could do crude with my thumb, yeah, about 21 miles. I kind of agree with the minimum safe altitude, actually, 1500. I've looked at the chart, I've looked at the obstacles. 1500 would keep me just about safe and legal sort of thing. So that's happy with that. Therefore, I wouldn't drop below that. And I know about Hertford was up here. If I'm flying even vaguely lowish, then I'm going to go around Hertford for legality and on top of that safety, of course, which is really important, paramount. My true airspeed of 83 knots. Why do I need to know? That's really for the calculations. The black line is 009 degrees on the chart with a tiny bit of magnetic variation now. It's to the east now. It's 008. With the wind creating a bit of drift, you can see that actually we need to head 016 degrees to sort out the drift. And we're going to be fast. Going to be getting a 22 knot thereabouts tailwind from that, roughly speaking. Therefore, it's only going to take 13 minutes. Zoom up there. Means it's going to be slow on the way back. So, I'd use that, or use your whiz wheel, or use a combination of those things. Brilliant. But the rest of it, for the planning purposes, I'd be thinking about it myself. I'm thinking, right, who should I pick on next? I'm with Blund. Hey, Alan, how long is it going to take him to get that R22? I'll just say Capri. The Capri started. Get it warmed up, get it out of here, got to cross the runway, blah, 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 etc. And get to that point there. Easily 15, 20 minutes, I reckon. Yes. Because he's learning. He's at the beginning. I don't expect him to try and rush it. So 20 minutes plus the 13, that's 33 minutes straight away. All right. How long is it going to take Blund to get from here? Bear in mind, I'm not going to help him. He's got to actually see Duxford first of all. So when he gets to Royston, he's going to be looking, going, I can't see the airfield. I said, well, you better circle around then, don't you? So there's another minute or two wasted. Round you go. You can see how it disappears, can't you? Then he's got to work out how he's going to get in there. Hover taxi. No, this is not where we need to land. We need to land over there. Oh, God, he's got a hover taxi now. He hasn't done precision transition, so it's going to take us several minutes to hover taxi down that end of the airfield, etc., etc. Shut down. 45 minutes. So, yes, I wouldn't just purely use that number. Okay, cool. So therefore, something I said much earlier on, if you remember, that we've left it at the moment that it's just blanketed the entire route at 2,100 foot. I wouldn't feel the need personally at the moment to change those individually, but we can do. If you're really desperate to do it, just so you know, we might say, for instance, well, when we exit Elstree, we're supposed to be 500 foot above ground level. Well, if what you can't see is I've just right clicked on this and a whole load of more information has come up. Leg properties. If I click on leg properties, Elstree to Point Bravo, you can see that it's just used the route profile. Well, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that to, you have to set all these up beforehand. I'll just change to 75. So you could easily set up a 50 or 60 knot one if you wanted to. Use route level. No, I'm going to say 500 on there, just for instance. Change level. So I'll start changing level when this leg starts. So it depends if you want to catapult it or if you want to calculate it. It will then show a little climb. Extra time minutes at start of leg. Yeah. Right. Well, let's take at least 15 minutes on 10 minutes on there. There you go. 10 minutes on there. Boom. And it's already jumped this up to 36 minutes, for instance. It doesn't like my level down. I'm not surprised because I told it 500 foot and it thinks the minimum safe altitude is 1100 foot. So it doesn't like it, but I'm not surprised.
Cool.
But I know that's kind of what we need to do on the way out. Then you could see what you could do. You could change each individual one. Now that feature does get very useful when you plan a far bigger, more complex nav that's going to involve going over the top of hills and mountains and then dropping into valleys, all these sorts of things. Yes, you might want to alter each individual leg accordingly, without a doubt, rather than just setting the whole lot at 6,000 foot to clear the top of every single mountain that you happen to be flying over. So yeah, you can alter those individual leg properties. But again, for the purpose of this simple route, I wouldn't do that. I would just use common sense to get me out to that point and get me in at Royston to Duxford. Okay. Something else it does down here, virtual radar. So what it now does is gives you a bit of a horizontal slice, and you can make this bigger, of kind of what it would look like from Elstree to Duxford, giving you a visualization if you flew exactly that route, the undulation of the ground, the masts that are close within the distance you've set en route, of course, don't forget your width of either side of route, what it's looking for. So you can see there's that antenna, and that's after Cheshunt, isn't it? So Southwick, Upley, yeah, up by Hertford. So yeah, it's only showing up. Oh yeah, it's showing it. There we are. To be fair, look, it is showing the 9251 as well. And it gives you just a visualization of how much clearance you've got of it, those sorts of things. It also shows you there's the 80Z of Elstree. Up here is the magenta stuff, is the London Terminal Moving Area. We call it the LTMA, of course, 2,500. You can see it planned at 2,100. You've got a 400-foot buffer. That's reasonable, depending on your skills and various other factors. Got to watch out on hot, sunny days because of the thermals. We were hitting them the other day around here on Friday, I think it was. 1,000 foot, at least 1,000 foot per minute. Yeah, next you bollock your VSI. Hey, up you go. Who had the? So I think the Cadbury was down on about 40% just to try and stay level at that time.
Still
Yeah, it's quite
going.
impressive. Yeah, it's quite impressive. Yeah, some good thermals. So yeah, suddenly you've got to watch it. 1,000 foot per minute thermal within 30 seconds, it's pushed you into controlled airspace. If you haven't noticed it. Etc. etc. So it gives you a nice horizontal slice of the route you've planned to fly. It would also, unfortunately, there isn't any unfortunately, if there was a bit of low cloud visible on our map, it then also shows the cloud on here, which is quite nice, just visually. But remember, it's only based literally on the METARs from the aerodromes. So it's trying to show you what it thinks the cloud is likely to be in that area that you're flying through. It doesn't mean to say it is, because there's not a forecast for that cloud. Sorry, there's not a report for the cloud at Brookman's Park, for instance, or at Hertford. It's going to base it on Stansted and Luton. It's going to look at what that gives and say, well, don't be surprised if you've got a cloud base of X amount. But it does show it down here, which is quite cool. How are we doing? Not too bad. Okay, let's just drop that back down again. All right, any questions? Everybody's been quite quiet because I've been doing a lot of talking. Any questions from anybody at the moment?
No.
Are you all keeping up okay with it? Good. Remember, don't expect you to remember everything. There's a hell of a lot of information. As I keep saying, there's no way I could possibly go through the whole lot in a 2-hour window. Right, so a very, very quick recap. And so using this, we've created the route that I wanted to fly. At the moment, it's only going there. I haven't said about coming back, but that's for, another time. So we're going to say we're going to go there. We're going to shut down and spend the night up at Duxford. There we go. There's a party on. Yeah, happy days. So we've got the route we're happy with. We've looked at the weather. Let's just say we're happy with that. We've looked as much as we can on here for the moment. We've tapped some METARs and rainfall radars and wind vectors and God knows what else. If we were looking at the weight and balance, whilst it can do it, we said, no, for now, we'll use some spreadsheets. So that's all part of it. We've looked at things like the NOTAMs. It would also show us, I didn't see any. Let me just quickly zoom out a second. I'm not aware of any restricted airspace temporaries at the moment, off the top of my head. What's that over there? Yeah, no, it's just danger area. It shows up these things called the restricted airspace, as well as looked over here down at Salisbury, danger areas, a whole myriad of things it can show you. But on here, we quite often see the pre-planned royal flights. There'll be a, a big old rectangular with chevrons across it, red. You hover over it, and it pretty much basically tells you what's going on there at what times, and it's restricted, i.e. you don't go in it. You just have to stay out of it unless you've got some special clearances and various other bits and pieces. Gosh, I just thought something that's just slipped out of my mind. It was, oh yeah, okay, so I don't know if you've any realised I've been sort of loosely speaking going through a mated brief, if you know what they are. Because it's yet another acronym that kind of guides us through the process. The M was for Met, so all about the weather. The A was the aircraft. Well, this is not about checking a helicopter over, but weight and balance was part of it. But I said, well, do that. It's a reminder to do weight and balance. The E, the exercise, was the nav itself. The D of the mated was the duties. Well, if you're a student, we want you to try and be the pilot, but your instructor will take over responsibility. But depending on where you are in your training, depends how much we do for you. Towards the end, we pretend we're just sitting there literally folding arms looking out the window. We're not. We're keeping a close eye on everything. But we want to say, well, no, I'm just passenger. I'm not going to tell you if you're doing it wrong. You get on with it. To make you make the decisions and to check what you're doing. Anyway, so the bit that we haven't entirely covered would be the T, which loosely speaking, we usually put A, T, C, i.e. anything to do with airspace or procedures. I quickly mentioned about being in and out of Elstree at 500 foot, but I haven't mentioned anything about Duxford other than, well, I reckon I might be allowed to just fly straight in, but we ought to check if that's okay. And we could just pick up the telephone, but there might be something on here we can look at. So this route I'm taking up there, start up talking to Elstree, fine, I know that. But who am I going to talk to on the way up? Now, could I use SkyDemon to help guide me through that? Or should I make my own decision? Or
Depending on your decision.
yeah, but it should always be the pilot's decision, shouldn't it, at the end of the day? But the program's there to kind of assist, maybe. It's probably not going to tell you who you ought to speak to because there's actually quite a few options. From south of Cuffley down to Royston, it ranges from don't bother talking to anybody, which is not a good idea. I'm just chucking it out. But legally, you wouldn't have to talk to anybody at all because we're flying in open airspace, but it's not the clever option. So we really ought to talk to somebody. So the options are don't talk to anybody. We could select 1 to 9.550, which is Luton's frequency, and select 0013 on the transponder, which means we don't talk to them, but they know we're listening in case they want to contact us. So frequency monitoring codes. We could do the same thing with Stansted, 7013 and 120.625. And if I hover my mouse over it, you can see Stansted radar 120.625 flags up on there straight away for us. We could actually talk to them at the end of the day, if they would talk to us, in case they're not too busy. We could talk to Farnborough. It wouldn't be advisable to stay on Elstree's frequency up there because A, you might not hear them and you're quite far out, but it's possible you could stay with Elstree for quite a distance and then just change over to Duxford, but it's not probably the best idea. We could also talk to London Information around there, 124.600. They don't see us on radar, but they do provide a basic service, which is just the same as Elstree at the end of the day, which is just the same with Farnborough. If we were to talk to them on 132.800, you'd ask for a basic service. So they're all basic services. So there's often this misconception if you're talking to Farnborough, they're going to give you some sort of radar service. Well, only if you ask for it, or if their workload allows, they might be quite polite and just warn you there's something coming, but they're not obliged to. So you can see, therefore, on that basis, SkyDemon can't really tell you the best option because there's a lot of options. It depends on exactly what you're doing, what your capacity is, your abilities, all these sorts of things. Now, just jumping ever so slightly ahead, up here in briefing pack or pilot log might show me separately. Oh, hey, there we go. So this shows us a little bit what we kind of have on our kneeboard sometimes. And actually we tend to make it look more like this. There we go. And this is basically a pilot's log, isn't it? A plog. And in amongst here, down so that you can see it starts to put all this information we had about, I said to you guys, the only one I'd be mostly interested in is the south of Cuffley to the Royston. So I'd kind of get my highlighter pen out and make this one the really obvious one that I want to fly at this level at that speed and for that heading and for that length of time. They're the key bits of information I need off of this. The rest of it I can do by looking through the windscreen, as it were.
They got the monitoring codes on it.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. So down in this, I mean, it even talks about the elevation of Duxford. Look, 126 foot, 5 hectopascal difference between QNH and QFE. So if they don't tell you the QFE, literally you've only got to subtract 5 off of your QNH and you've got the QFE. Gives you sunset times, etc., all these sorts of things. It's pretty good, isn't it? What it can flag up, and it does the same up here. Look for Elstree, although it's not quite right. Can you see there?
12 hectopascal.
Yes, it's not. It's 11 hectopascals for Elstree. So it's rounded it up, whereas Elstree will round it down to 330, 11. Yes, yes, it has. Yeah, but it's still quite a good feature.
Yeah.
But you can see how this is the thing we were talking about earlier, understanding all of the depth of knowledge, rather than going, oh, so Elstree's 12 hectopascals different. It's like, no, it's not. It's 11. That's it. Full stop. How do you know that? Well, because that's what I'll tell you. But it astounds me the number of, nothing to do with us, but the number of definitely experienced pilots. They'll ask for, and they fly here all the time. Instructors we're talking about will ask for the QFE, and the tower say it's 1,000, and they'll say, "Oh, what's the QNH?" Think, how do they not know? It's going to be 1011. The tower says, "Oh, 1011." The instructor goes, "Oh, 1011," as if it's like a surprise. Like, oh my God, they're teaching this stuff. This is just incredible. Anyway. Sorry, it's just another one of those. I find that absolutely astounding. Absolutely mind-boggling. So down here we've got, yeah, it's quite handy. It flags up a whole load of frequencies. It tells you could get a low airspace radar service from Farnborough North or Farnborough Radar North, 132-800, etc. Yeah, it's got all this sort of stuff. And yes, it has. It's got things like frequency monitoring codes on there as well. So there's the Luton one I was talking about. There's the Stansted one. Yeah. Yep. This is not bad. It's even got Duxford on there, Falmere because you pass by. So there's quite a bit of info. Some stuff up here. So if you're doing VOR training, it's got the 3 letters of it, the frequency, and the Morse code on there as well.
This is quite impressive. Do they put the low level frequency on that if you go near like Wales or something?
Possibly. Never tried it, but possibly. Yeah. Probably would do. So this is actually quite good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not bad at all. There's even a bit of space up here, although we don't have brakes on and brakes off. I have asked them, I'll need to ask them again, can we make these boxes so that we can change what's in there? So we can have, start up, shut down, rotor start, rotor stop, I should say, fuel start, fuel finish, these sorts of things. So I just get the Tipex out if I was using one of these and just Tipex over it and put your own ones on there, those sorts of things. This side of things, you can see we just sort of tend to ignore that because we haven't put that into the SkyDemon, and we'd work that out ourselves. I don't want a computer to tell me how much fuel I'm going to need. I want to work it out myself, and those sorts of things.
Interesting, it has a validity.
Yeah, it will do because, of course, the winds will be different. Otherwise, they'll be wrong. So that's pretty cool. Okay, and we also have, so that was just simply pilot log. Oh, I need the black bar to disappear. Come on. So there's something on my screen just obscuring what I'm after. I can't. That's it. Up here where it says briefing pack, it's just yet another feature. And if I enable, if I were to enable the whole lot, you get an idea of what it can actually do for you if you set it all up accordingly. So not only can you have your pilot log we just saw, it will even produce up-to-date en route charts. Now you can see that, of course, an A4 sheet, or this is really A5, can't cover the whole lot in a 1/4 mil scale. So hence you'd have to join them together, but it's still pretty good, not bad. So if you were flying somewhere that you don't happen to have to hand the chart for that area, you could print this off and create your own up-to-date CAA-based chart, which is very handy. We haven't even got to it yet, but airfield information. But this will be a, oops, sorry, I'll just delete that tab. Sorry. God, I've got 9 minutes to try and, cover the rest of it. There is the SkyDemon version of a Elstree aerodrome plate. And again, there'll be lots of information on there. Duxford one. And they're pretty good. And, bearing in mind they come with the package, you don't have to pay extra for any of this. This is all part and parcel. A weather briefing, which I do find quite good if you're sending students solo, because you can just print this off. I mean, we print off the TAFs and METARs normally anyway, but that could be quite useful. But what is really useful, because there's obviously a lot of that, is the NOTAM briefing is dead handy up there. You can just print that off, as you can see. Obviously, you might want to just filter some of the obscure ones, but you can just print this off and just stick it within their solo nav certificate, etc., to show you have looked at all this stuff. So it's quite good as a NOTAM brief. Remember, you could do a weight and balance on there as well if you really wanted to, but it just gives you an idea of what it can do. But say we tend to not have. Oh. I'll try and deselect them all now. For the sakes of saving paper, I wouldn't print the whole lot out.
This has gotten significantly better over time, hasn't it?
This has been there for all. This has always been there. Yeah, this has been there from day dot. En route chart's great for if you're going across France, for instance. All these sorts of things. Yeah, it's very good. So just for a very base use, if I was going to print something out, I might print out one of these and then just adapt it for my kneeboard accordingly. Get the old Tipex out, cross out the bits that you don't want, etc. Okay, over on the right-hand side of the screen, look down here in airfields. There's a whole load of stuff. Now, at the moment, it's going to be based on our route. There's an Elstree one and a Duxford one. If I click on the, let's click on the Elstree one for a minute. No, I'll tell you what, sorry. Yeah, I'll click on the Elstree one. I like that, look. Apparently there's food available. Free. You can do aerial photography, but it does open it up in Google Maps, as you see. Now, on our iOS devices, when we do aerial photography, it overlays the route on top of the aerial photography, whereas this doesn't. So if I zoom out, look, you can't see any sign of, I don't know if you've actually followed. Can you guys see Google Earth at the moment? No, of course I know for the previous. Okay, well, all that happened was when I clicked on aerial photography, it opened up in a separate browser, Google Earth of that area, i.e. Elstree, but it didn't show the route that we planned on there. But on our Apple products, on the iPads and the helicopter, if you clicked on Google Earth, it would show you the route over the top of Google Earth, which is really cool in SkyDemon. Really handy for confined areas and things. Anyway, over this side, you can email, you can go to visit their website, as in Elstree's website. You can send feedback. This is a really useful one. Pilot's notes. This is stuff that pilots submit. It shows me where I've read up to last. And you can just, the stuff you can glean from this alone from other pilots, whether the place is cheap to land, expensive, easy, difficult, watch out for this.
Pure aviation.
Yeah, look, Dave will love this one. I recognise that name.
Abdullah.
Yeah, I recognise that name for some reason. Anyway, landed us yesterday for the first time. Absolutely helpful and friendly ATC. Dave, thanks for having us. We stopped by for a quick lunch at the cafe while getting refueled by the mobile Bowser. See you soon. So, it's just you can get, like I say, a lot of useful information. Obviously, there's a whole load of stuff from the past, etc., etc. That is handy. If you click on things like approach information, it will talk about frequencies and all sorts of other bits and pieces. Whether fuel facilities, not everything is on here, but it could give you some information. But this is what people have submitted themselves, so they've updated this information. Now plates. You can see there's another version of Poolies, which is AFE, and I haven't purchased that one. But the Poolies plates I've got the subscription for it. We've seen the SkyDemon one already, so if I were to click on that, this is what we were looking at just now. Look, that's their version, which is all right. The aerodrome chart from the Civil Aeronautical Information Publication. Oh, your screen won't follow. Okay, if you click on that, what you'll see is an image of the aerodrome with some the runway and the boundary and buildings and some information. It's fine, but it's not amazingly helpful. It's all right, don't get me wrong. But if I click on the Poolies one, oh God, of course you're not going to see that screen. How do I make it follow? I'll have to stop sharing. I'll have to share another screen. Sorry.
Follow anyway. Shouldn't it?
No, it doesn't for privacy purposes.
Oh.
So there's probably a shortcut. I haven't learned how to make it follow me. Anyway, there we go. It's probably up here or something.
What's where it has share? There's a drop down menu. Is it there? If you go up. Actually, yeah. Is there any
The
drop down?
bottom.
Where it says the actual share.
Oh, there.
Yeah. Does that do it?
It's probably.
No,
No, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
It's. I think it's so that if I were to go onto another screen of Min just pulling a stupid face, you can't see it. You know, that sort of thing. It's just for privacy, isn't it? Okay, so these are the Poolies plates, and we like these because Poolies spend a lot of time gleaning all the information and trying to put it into one manageable, user-friendly source. So I'm not going to go through the whole lot of these, but it is very good. You can see, for instance, they've even warned there's some hot spots or going across the runway and across the helipad. There are public footpaths here. It is unbelievable. But anyway, because public footpaths are, you know, that's it. It's staying free to use. Yeah, lots of information in there. Very useful. Departures and arrivals for fixed wing. And then the helicopter ones, and we were talking about I'll be going out via Bravo, look, you can see there, and it talks about it down here. Helicopter routes have to be flown 500 foot above ground level, which gets us into a whole new discussion as to what that actually means. Is that QFE? No.
No, that's AAL.
Yes, that's above aerodrome level. AGL is above ground level. So you'd have to know that the ground out that way rises by about 150 foot. So if you're on QFE, you'd have to be at 650 to really be about 500 foot above ground level. Does that take in consideration of the power lines and also, anyway, all sorts of things. That's for another time. So these are the Poolies plates I was talking about. They're really useful. And you'd see a very similar sort of thing for Duxford. Right, let's just quickly go back onto SkyDemon very briefly. And there we go. What else did I want to quickly say? Down here, bearing in mind, don't forget we're on Elstree. There are no METARs or TAFs for Elstree because it's not a terminal area. So it would take the closest one, for instance, to give you an idea of what the weather might be around this area. What it does do, though, is we saw it up here with the NOTAMs, but it consolidates the NOTAMs in one place for the aerodromes as well. But it's all the ones we saw earlier, as you could see. Oh, just another thing, you know, like a user error. If somebody asked me the other day, it was they said, for instance, I can't, you know where you see all the airfields, yeah, and you get the plates, yeah, I can't see it. Oh, what have you done? and they were like this. They were stuck on one. I said, you just need to click the back button, and then they all reappear. Oh yeah, thanks for that kind of thing. Look, back, and then suddenly, oh, there they are. Hey. So it's just that understanding of how you use it, how you find this information. And there's a lot of that, if you're not careful, operator error. I appreciate not everybody's, computer literate or that sort of thing, which is why you need to practice this stuff. Any questions at the moment on any of that? Okay, let me just stop sharing for a minute. Like I say, there's still quite a lot to show. We've seen quite a bit. We've definitely scratched the surface, but there's still quite a lot that I could show you. Now, one of the other things that SkyDemon do is a lot of tutorials. They have I think they've got a YouTube channel, if I remember rightly. And they put stuff out on Facebook and all sorts of things. I think it's Rob quite often does a little is it Richard or something? Anyway, somebody does a little snippet about once a month of a new little feature, or did you know how to do this? And they constantly do that, which is really, really good. On their website, there's a tutorial page to help teach you how to use SkyDemon, all the things it can do. So it's well worth looking at. If you're not a person that particularly likes picking up manuals and reading them, well, there's lots of videos and pretty pictures to look, watch, and follow. So it's all there available. As I said to you in the beginning, they do a free version of it, so you can play with it. You can do almost everything we've just done on the free version. So you can really get used to it. But it's not very expensive anyway. Now, you don't have to buy it. It's not a problem. We've got it here in the classroom, in the helis and all the rest of it. But it's not a bad thing to have. So you can practice and you can get used to it. You can also, the route we just had there, you can simulate it. So you can tell it to pretend to go flying. You can play around with the helicopter, go off route and see how it would warn you of airspace, make it climb, make it descend, and all the warnings that come up, etc., etc. So that's a useful, handy tool to see how it would interact with you in flight. Yeah, there we go. Any questions?
But when we make this all, after this need a check, like a check not check this is we made it.
So
The flight plan we made it.
yes. So to give you an idea
You need
of
to check again.
yeah, absolutely. For flying tomorrow, I'll be checking tonight the NOTAMs and the weather and all these sorts of things, trying to think well ahead. In SkyDemon alone, it gives you the options to look ahead. You can put several weeks ahead, but it wouldn't necessarily show you all of the NOTAMs because NOTAMs can crop up at the last minute. So tonight, Catherine's going to love me for this. If she's online, I'll be there doing a bit of flight planning for tomorrow. Now, I'm not going very far tomorrow, so I only really have to look at the local area as such. But I'll look at it tonight. So I've forewarned about tomorrow and potentially the day after. And then tomorrow morning, we'll look at it again just to triple check nothing's changed. So we're constantly using it because it is a really good, if we know what we're doing with it, a quick way of accessing a lot of information rather than potentially other methods that are a little bit more drawn out and not as easy to get the information from. So that's how we use it in multiple layers or multiple ways, ranging from sometimes a 10-second glance would give me a quick overview of maybe what the weather is like across the UK, whereas a far detailed 2-hour, in-depth planning, etc., is the other end of the scale, isn't it?
Thank you.
But the nuts and bolts is please learn how to use this stuff, not because we solely rely upon it, but you do need to know what you're doing with it if you're going to be using it to aid you. So we didn't even get into the actual using it in the air part at this point in time, but we'll do that another time. Well, that's enough of me, I think, or from me. I hope that's been helpful. If nothing else, kickstart you to getting the free version and having a play with it. Sorry, Catherine, what did you say?
I was just going to say next time it's aircraft general knowledge live check A.
Hey, as long as the weather's all right. And
it's end of May. It's 27th, I think it is.
27th of May. Okie. Well,
or as near to the Tuesday as that is. We've just had to move it because of the trip.
oh yeah, we're off around the UK.
27th.
Lucky us.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday. Oh yeah, see it in the calendar. Marvelous. Yeah, so do join us for that. That'd be lovely. I say if it's nice and nice weather, we'll be outside. We'll pick on one of the helicopters and do a bit of a daily inspection on it. So you can all chip in with which helicopter you like it to be. See which one comes out on top. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. Have a good rest of your week. With a bit of luck, the weather will be a smidgen drier than what it was this afternoon, or this morning, at least for us. And we'll see you all soon.
Thank you very
Thanks so much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later. Oh, that was interesting. Sophie's just put the Met off the weather. Usually they take it from the official source itself. The trouble is, what's the official source? Oh, I assume that's Exeter, because but it can be the NOAA, the Northern Oceanic Aerospace Association. NOAA.
You've really done much better than me.
Oh, I think that I hope that was right.
It's interesting because a lot of the information from like the Met Office, which is the sort of